Almost immediately following the release of the Rocky Horror Picture Show to widespread cinemas in 1975, creator and writer Richard O'Brien was interested in writing a sequel. Following the story of Brad, Janet, and Frank, he wrote a script and pitched it to executives at 20th Century Fox in 1978. Not a lot still exists of this version. The most that I could find was 3 pages submitted by a Fox executive in which they ranked the songs and said that it might not be a great fit for the screen. The belief that was, while some of the songs were fun compared to Rocky Horror, overall it didn't really have the bangers like Touch It, Touch It, Touch Me or The Time Warp. So then Richard O'Brien was tasked with reworking this, turning it into a new sequel from the elements that he already had. However, at this point, Tim Curry dropped out of the project, and then following that, Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick. So now Richard O'Brien really wanted to make a sequel to Rocky Horror, but didn't have a Janet or a Brad or a Frank. He decided to start approaching this through a script called The Brad and Janet Show, which eventually evolved into Shock Treatment. Some of the songs that were in Rocky Horror Show's heels ended up in The Brad and Janet Show / Shock Treatment, which is why some of the songs like Thank God I'm a Man and Looking for Trade feel kind of out of place. Shock Treatment, though being really different in its tone, was given the same midnight release that Rocky Horror was, and it was met with a resounding, "Hey, this is a Rocky Horror!" Richard O'Brien still was interested in making a true follow-up to Rocky Horror Picture Show. So in 1988-ish, he'd pitched to Fox executives a script and 4 tracks on a demo cassette titled The Rocky Horror Picture Show 2. Revenge of the Old Queen. The script that I found of it was uploaded by somebody in the late 90s who happened to own RHPS.com, somebody who was a Rocky Horror superfan who had obtained the script illegally and had posted it online illegally. The only other thing I was able to find was one of the demo tracks that was just re-recorded a few years later and uploaded onto YouTube, so that's what I'll be using. It's not great. It builds on a lot of Rocky Horror's ideas, but also throws in a lot of its own, and when that's combined, it makes this sort of like gigantic ball of like different tropes and tones, and it just feels like stuff's just shoved in together, trying to make something that feels coherent somehow, like it'll be bigger than the sum of its parts. So whereas Rocky Horror is a B-movie parody, a horror film in and of itself, a musical, a queer drama, Revenge of the Old Queen takes this and adds in, it's also a noir movie, it's also a time travel movie, it's also just fucking complete batshit. I have the script here. I'm gonna go through it, and I will post that link in the description. I will also post a list of full content warning, because this does have a lot of the same elements as Rocky Horror, and it also has some kind of new stuff. If that's something that you would like to see, go check that out. Let's go. The first thing we see is that it's titled The Rocky Horror Picture Show Part 2, Revenge of the Old Queen. I like to consider this Richard O'Brien's return to form. Whereas Shock Treatment began with a large musical number that talked about the life of just citizens in Denton, I like to think that the opening number here, which is called The Moon-Drenched Shores of Transylvania, is sort of its own science fiction double feature. A little bit of backstory for the musical clip I'm gonna show. It was created in 1993 with a singer, Paul Cox, who had done the demos for the original track. This was for a radio show a couple years later. It is clear that Richard O'Brien's style and his sound has evolved since science fiction double feature, which is catchy, but honestly pretty simplistic. I'm gonna play a clip of that here. Enough of that. We open the movie with General Riffraff. That's right. He is large and in charge, and he is crying at a coffin. It's Magenta's coffin because he killed Magenta. Magenta, my beloved sister, flesh of my flesh, delight of my life, forgive me, ya bitch. Yeah. So somebody comes to Riff Raff and says, look, the old queen of Transylvania wants to see you. We open on this guy. His name's Steve. We don't know much about him, but his name is Steve and he's narrating. And he says he's hot on this trail. This trail that started with a song he heard on the radio. A song called Moon-Drenched Shores of Transylvania, bam, tie-in, done. So he's an employee of the Bureau of the Investigation of that which you call
UFOs! That's right, isn't it, Brad?
And he's ready to go see the chief of the FBI. So he goes in to see the chief, and the chief is like, he has a nose full of cocaine. He's like right in the heat of it. And Steve comes in, and Steve's like, sir, I have news about the aliens. Well, what is the news about the aliens? The chief of the FBI, his name is Ray. I'm just going to keep calling him Ray because chief of the FBI is too much of a mouthful. His son is named Sunny. Good job, Richard. You did it. You named a teenage character. His name is Sunny. He's like in his mid-teens. He's like 14, 15. He is a multi-platinum superstar. He's the son of the chief of the FBI, which is, I don't know if you would want your son to be like this multi-billion-dollar pop star because you are the chief of the FBI and you're supposed to keep your life like secret. Steve says, have you heard of this film, Chief? It's called The Rocky Horror Show. Of course. I've heard of it. Of course I've heard of it. My boy Sonny loves it. He used to go all the time. So did a lot of other kids, Chief. They still do, but what they don't know is it's a true story. There are aliens among us. They call themselves T-slurs, and all they want is for us to become slaves to sensation. Cool. So Steve says, tell me about your boy. And Ray says, oh, he's just a red-blooded American boy, just like all the others. It cuts to Sonny. He's walking down a street in D.C. He's in a full face of makeup, full lingerie, high heels, the whole shebang. And he's, like, seducing people. By the time he's finished it, he's probably made love to a few bystanders, beaten up the odd redneck, and wound up in the window of a lingerie shop with a couple of cops and several teenaged girls. Hey, Richard. Hey, Richard O'Brien. He's fucking 15. Please don't make adults attracted to him, especially since you are fucking 50 years old. And you should know better. So Ray says, this is bullshit. He's just a rock star. It's just a fan song. Whatever. I don't believe in that. Go fuck yourself, basically. We cut back to Riff. Riff is singing a song about how he always gets the short end of the stick. He is not respected. I don't understand why they put this song, like, right in between the action. But that's what I have for this movie at this point. How much water does the human body, like, really need? Come on. So Steve goes on his own to follow a new lead. A new lead is this girl named Judy, who happens to be in Denton. Judy Brankmeyer, maybe I did remember her. Sexy little brunette with a cute little pushed-up button nose, tight buns, and a pair of tits you could die for. Then again, maybe I didn't. So Steve's a fucking misogynist, but he wants to get together to meet with Judy. Come over to my place. It's like a time warp here.
It's a
Steve's like, okay, maybe we'll catch up. We're friends, whatever, fuckmates, dating in high school. Maybe this ain't good for my voice. Holy shit. So, we finally meet the old queen. Riff calls her the silk stocking, the lace curtain, the big furter. the big furter. The old queen basically says, I miss Frankenfurter. He was my child, he went down to the planet Earth with you like 15 years ago, and he hasn't come back since, and like, I miss him. In more ways than one.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
So he says, yeah, sure, I'll get Frankenfurter back up here real easy, and then you two can have incestuous parent-child love. The fact that Richard O'Brien chose to not just make incest like a one-off joke in Rocky Horror, but to make it a crux of the planet Transylvania. What the fuck you on, bro? My guy. My dude. That ain't it, Chief. So she sings a song. There's one thing that we should cover. You'll discover you'll never get another lover like your mother. Look, I know the opening number slapped, but I don't think I would want to sit through a full 3-minute number where she talks about how much she wants to bone down with her literal, actual child. So, Riff Raff builds this plan. He says, fuck, 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 fuck. I can't go down to the planet Earth and bring back Frankenfurter because I killed Frankenfurter 15 years ago and I never let his mom know. So I gotta do something. What the fuck am I gonna do? So he says, of course. I'm gonna jump in one of my classic Transylvanian teleporters and head down to the planet Earth. The Transylvanian teleporter is a shower. I'm not fucking joking. It's a shower, you know, like the shower that you like wash yourself off in and then sometimes pee in if you think that nobody is looking. That's how the Transylvanians get around on Earth. So Judy is waiting for Steve to show up, and she is taking a shower of her own. And Riff Raff says, look, there's a shower right now. I'm gonna pop into that one. So he goes into Judy's shower, and Judy, because the shower on Earth is also a Transylvanian teleporter, gets teleported up to Transylvania. Why? How? What? Who? Where? I don't know. So Judy shows up on the planet Transylvania. She is completely nude because she was in the shower, and she meets a guy, like a servant. She sings this song about how it's love at first sight, and she's like really into this guy, and they have a wonderful love ballad, and they both declare their true love for each other. His name is Lordy DeLordy. I'm doing this bit again because Richard O'Brien once again has made a stellar effort to name characters. I'm gonna pause the video so I can get more water. Okay, I got water, we cool. So Steve calls Judy's house, and Riff Raff picks up because Judy is on a fucking alien planet with a dude named Lordy DeLordy. Steve says, hey, sexy bod, I'm ready to meet you. MEAT, if you know what I mean. And Riff Raff goes, I have no clue who the fuck you are. So he hangs up, and he starts going through Judy's wallet and, like, her bag, trying to find anything about what she might look like. Riff is in a slight panic. He crosses to a bookcase and pulls a secret switch. It slides open to reveal a wardrobe labeled Earthwear. One side is male, the other female. Riff is in full drag and looks pretty good. Richard O'Brien wrote this about himself. He fluffs up his blonde hair, and as he does so, we hear Steve on the other side of the door. You're a redhead, not a blonde. Riff sighs and pulls off the wig. So Riff gets Steve drunk, and Steve passes out. Then Riff takes him and drags him upstairs and puts him in the bed, and takes his clothes off and, like, throws them off to the side. and takes the condoms out of his wallet and throws them away. We cut back to Transylvania. Judy and Dougherty have had sex, and they talk about how they had sex. And then that's the end of the scene. I found that there's a lot of these fragmented scenes. We cut between locations and not much is really said, and it just feels like it takes it out of the moment. I don't know. So Steve wakes up the next morning, and he goes and he checks his wallet. He's got like a big, huge hangover. He goes and he checks his wallet, and he says, "My 2 condoms are gone. I guess I had sex twice when I was blacked out? Okay. Cool." So Riff Raff shows up, and he's just in, like, masculine clothes. He says, "Hi, I'm Judy's sister, George. That's why we look exactly alike, and why we have the same voice. Let's go to brunch." So they go to brunch. So Steve and Riff are talking at brunch. God, what am I talking about? You've got the same face, the same eyes, the same oh-so-kissable lips. Fuck George, I think I'm bi. And Riff Raff says, "Cool. Okay. I'm just trying to find out about some aliens." Everyone at the diner, like, drops what they're doing, turns around, and they all, like, stare at them, and they all sing a giant ensemble musical number called "Never Let Your Daughter Date an Alien." Never let your daughter date an alien. It's a warning that no one should reject. They only contemplate the bacchanalian, and in the morning, they got no respect. So everyone in this 50s diner, like, the wait staff, the, like, old people, the, like, little kids in high chairs are all saying, "Aliens, man, when they get here, they fuck you, and then they ghost you." So Steve and Riff Raff go back to Steve's apartment, and Riff Raff says, "Lucky for us, I found this book somewhere, and it says Transducer Programming for the Beginner." And Steve says, "Great job that you found that. I don't know if you found it at Goodwill or whatever the fuck. But let's see, what do we need to do?" And Riff Raff says, "Oh, let's go get in the shower." And Steve goes on this, like, long monologue, like, fucking pages, that's like, "Whoa, I don't know if I want to get in the shower with you. I mean, I know we're close, and I know that we established that I might be bi in the last scene, but I ain't about to get in no shower with you." I love this scene that Steve walks in on Riff, and Riff is, like, frantically, like, grabbing the shower handle and, like, flicking it back and forth. "Oh, hi. Hey, check out my time machine. I think it's pretty cool." Of course it's a time machine. My favorite composer and musical writer, Richard O'Brien, said it was. No, see, he wrote it in the script. What you need to do is you need to, like, fumble with the knob, and then all these, like, secret buttons come out, and then you just, like, beep, 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 and then there's, like, an alphanumerical. This bit was a mistake. So Steve says, "This isn't a regular shower. A sonic transducer, an audio vibratory physiomolecular transport device, capable of breaking down solid matter and projecting it through space, and who knows, perhaps even time itself." So Steve says, "Whoa, this can, like, take us somewhere? Where does it take us? Alaska, Algeria, Boston, Brussels." So he just lists, like, places in alphabetical order to let you know that he knows how the alphabet works. Steve says, "Can we go to Washington, D.C.? And Riff Raff's like, "Fuck yeah, we can go to Washington, D.C. And Steve says, "Wait, we need to go to Denton, because that's where I think this all began, because that's where I grew up, and that's where I went to high school with Judy." So they hop in the shower together, and Riff goes, "Okay, let's teleport," and he teleports Steve, and then he gives some one-liner. He's like, "You shouldn't trust anybody in this business." Bing! And then he, like, teleports away. We cut to Transylvania, and Dougherty and Judy are, like, naked and covering themselves and, like, walking to the chamber of the old queen, and they're accompanied by guards. And the guards start, like, falling over, and they're, like, collapsing, because Judy has such bad breath that she has, like, fucking sex breath, and she stuns them all, and they all fall down, and then the two of them run away. So Riff goes, bing, and he teleports. Give it, like, 5 seconds. And then Judy and Delorty come in. They're like, bing, and she says, woohoo, we did it, let's get some fucking champagne. And he says, no, I'm not drinking the same champagne as you while you have fucking sex breath. Go get some fucking mouthwash, girl. So Riff Raff teleports into a hotel room in Denton. It's not the same time, but it is the same place, and he figures that might be enough. He steps in, he gets into this Holiday Inn, and he exits it and walks away. Steve is at a Holiday Inn in Alaska. He's on the payphone, he's shivering, he's freezing. He says, I'm in Alaska, I took the shower, I need some help. Chief, Ray, please come help me. So he says, oh wait, Ray, I have to, like, describe you to her so that you can find her, because just a name might not be enough. Okay, here's my police breakdown. And then he sings a song about how wonderful Judy is that starts out as a police breakdown, and then suddenly he's, like, dancing around at the payphone. Then it cuts to Washington, D.C., and Ray's standing there around the phone, and around him are, like, Sonny, his son, and then Judy and Delorty, who might still be naked, I'm not sure, it doesn't say, and his, like, secretary. Ray's like, just give me a bulletin on her, man, I need to, like, put this out, I don't need to know that she has beautiful eyes and whatever the fuck. So we follow Riff, and he's in Denton, and he goes up to, like, an old gate, and he sees a sign that says, enter at your own risk, which is the same sign that Brad and Janet walk by in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So Steve's in Alaska, he's banging on the door to, like, get the maid to open it up. He says, I need to get in there. It's an emergency, I have to use the shower. And she says, if you want a shower, you have to, like, get a room. And he says, I'm with the Bureau of Investigation of UFOs, and I have to use this shower because I'm under federal contract, whatever, I outrank you. And she says, okay, I mean, I'll go get my manager, I guess. And she runs away, and he, like, tries the door and it's unlocked, so whatever. So there's some, like, way that the system works. It really doesn't explain it in the script. I think it's like a rotary phone system. So he tries to spell out Denton to get to Denton, because he figures that's where Riff Raff is, and that's where Judy is, and that's where he needs to go. So Riff Raff's gone past the gates, and he gets in there, and he sees this sign that's like, housing development coming soon. He's like, fuck, oh no, where's my house? So Steve gets the shower to work, and he, like, teleports to Washington, D.C., and he teleports into Ray's, like, private bathroom, and he gets in there, and he goes, whoa, Ray, you're naked, and Judy, you're naked, and this guy that I don't know who's, like, with Judy is naked, and, like, the secretary is naked, and this 15-year-old kid who's the son of the chief of the FBI is naked, and they all just had a fucking orgy, and I missed it. So, he says, wait, this is real Judy. Then the Judy that I slept with is fake Judy. And the brother that I went to brunch with must also be fake. And Judy's like, yeah, I don't have a brother. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And he says, and Sonny, what are you doing here? And why do you have fishnets on? And Sonny goes, it's just part of my Rocky Horror fan gear. And you wouldn't know because you haven't seen the movie. So Ray says, get out of here, Agent Majors. And Sonny goes, Majors? Like Brad Majors from my favorite movie, The Rocky Horror Picture? I take it back. Sonny's like the most relatable character of the whole movie, and he totally acts the same way that I would act whenever anyone would bring up my special interest when I was 15. So he says, Brad Majors? Do you know him? And Steve says, yeah, I had a brother named Brad Majors. What the fuck? It's real? And Steve's like, yeah, it's real. I did my fucking research on it. And you're bringing up my dead brother. Oh no, he died? No, he was an asshole. So Steve says, yeah, I'll tell you this story. So Steve starts telling this story, and Sonny is standing over there just yelling call-outs from the movie. I think they might all still be naked at this point. I'm really not quite sure, and this is really not great. So Steve's recalling the story. A Transylvanian, Frankenfurter, seduced my brother Brad, asshole, and his fiancée, Janet Weiss, slut. And Ray's like, fucking stop it. Like, get on with your story. Stop being a fucking little cheap fanboy. So Steve says, after that night, Frank turned my brother gay, and he left Janet and became a bottomless go-go dancer in Vegas, and he fell to his death from a trapeze. And they took him to the morgue, wearing nothing but 6-inch heels and a rhinestone choker. Richard O'Brien, slayer of homophobia, inventor of gay people, says that Brad Majors, the fucking stiffest guy of all time, went and became a go-go dancer because he caught a case of the gay. Fucking brilliant. I love it. So Steve's telling the story and he's getting all choked up, and everybody around him is like kind of trying to hold in their laughter, and Sonny's just like dying because his favorite movie is real. His favorite character in the movie is dead in real life, and his brother is standing right back in front of him. So Steve sings a song about how he doesn't want money, he doesn't want any recompense for this, all he wants is his brother back, you son of a bitch. So he says, let's all go to Denton together. And they all go, yay, let's all put our clothes on and go to Denton. So Riff is in the Holiday Inn in Denton, and they want to make it clear this isn't the one in Alaska where Steve Majors was for approximately 2 seconds. So he walks in, and the room's all smoky, and there's, like, shit everywhere, and there's Janet. Janet is of middle to late 30s, but looking considerably older, her once beautiful face showing the ravages of excess and despair. So Janet says, who the fuck are you? How did you get into my hotel room? So Riff is talking to her, and she basically says, I remember you, Riff Raff. I remember Frankenfurter. After Brad left me, I got so caught up about that really good Frankenfurter dick that I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't have sex with anybody else. The only thing that kept me going was the thought of that really great Frankenfurter cock. And now I drink alcohol and do drugs to dull that screaming that really wants me to get one good fuck. And Riff Raff says, wow, your life is shit. So the old queen is walking around Transylvania, and she finds these 2 guards that Judy sex-breathed until they were unconscious. And she says, where are they? What did they do? And they go, I don't know. They got away from us. They passed out. And she's furious. She says, I'm gonna go down to Earth. I'm gonna find them myself. And I'm gonna fuck my son if it's the last thing I ever do. So Ray's figuring out the shower. And he goes, I got it! And Steve says, look, Sonny, this is Janet Weiss. And he's like so awestruck that this is the real woman, and he goes, slut! And she goes, okay. And then they all hop in the shower and they go away. The old queen and the guards come down from Transylvania into Washington, D.C., and they pull out with, like, their guns and shit. So she finds the one person who didn't get out of the orgy, basically, and go to Denton. She finds the secretary, and she says, "Secretary, what do you want? I'm gonna fucking kill you." And the secretary says, "I just want respect, because I'm a fucking secretary and nobody ever listens to me." She says, "Alright, chill. Women's rights." So when Sunny and Ray and Steve hop into the shower, Ray's figured out something in the programming that not only lets them teleport across space, but go back in time. And they're gonna go back to the night that everything happened, either by coincidence or because Ray has some grand plan. So they show up in the past, and they're looking around, and they're like, we need to get to the castle. Because Riff Raff wants to get to the castle because he wants to get Frankenfurter and take him back to the old queen and say, look, here he is. Have your way with him. I'm just following my orders. And then the rest of them are going there because Steve wants to see Brad before he dies. Sunny wants to see how it actually all went down before it got turned into a movie. Ray is, I guess, just doing it for the fun of it. So they all get to the front lawn of the castle, and they're, like, running up. It's about the time in the original movie when the floor show is going on. They're trying to get in there. The old queen is, like, looking around, trying to find where everybody is, basically. They're all, like, shooting at each other. The guards are shooting at Ray. Ray is shooting at everybody. They're all, like, that scene in The Office when they've got the, like, guns to each other. And then the old queen says, stop. I know you, Ray. So the old queen says, who are you? And Ray says, I'm an Earthling, but I love the Transylvanians, and I knew about this all along, but I never told anyone, even my teenage son, who's completely obsessed with the movie made about you. And old queen says, okay, chill. And Ray says, oh, and Riff Raff, your cousin is here, Lordy de Lordy. And he fucked your sister. And Lordy de Lordy goes, No, I didn't. That was just a joke. Don't kill me. And then Riff kills him. And then Judy runs. She's like, no! She runs over and she's like, if you killed him, you gotta kill me too. Okay, bang. Judy and DeLordy are dead on top of each other. I think this is the part of the movie where the random murders in sequential order start happening all within the span of like a minute of each other. That was something in the original it's gotta be in the sequel, I guess. Old Queen says, get the fuck out of my way. She's like walking to the castle because she's like all suave and old and whatever. Because she wants to hear Frankenfurter sing. And then suddenly, like, she gets blown back because the house is starting to take off. She goes, ah, fuck! I missed it! There's a group of, like, the old queen and Janet and Sunny and Riff Raff and Ray. And Ray gets a bullet in the back from one of the guards or something, and he's, like, bleeding out on the grass in front of this house while it's, like, floating away. Janet turns to Sunny, and she says, you know, you look like this Transylvanian that I fucked once, and now nothing will ever compare. Sunny says, oh, like Frankenfurter. That's pretty cool. I'm one of Frankenfurter's biggest fans. So Ray's bleeding out, and he leans into Sunny, and he goes, Sunny, you're adopted! I got you from an adoption agency in Denton, like, 15 years ago. Sunny goes, oh shit. Janet goes, well, that's weird, 'cause 9 months after I had sex with Frankenfurter, I had a baby, and I gave it up to an adoption agency in Denton. And Sunny goes, he's having a panic attack over in the corner, basically, while everybody else is talking, and Ray says, be good, and he's, like, fucking dying. The old queen says, oh my god, I don't have a son anymore, but I have a grandson, and he's just as sexy. And she starts, like, breathing heavy. She's, like, having an orgasm just at the thought of this. And Sunny's over there in the fucking corner having a panic attack because he can't deal with all this. And she fucking keels over and dies. Because I guess that all of that thinking about sex was just too much for her. So Sunny looks at her and he goes, "Oh shit. That makes me the new ruler of Transylvania." And they all go, "He's the big furter now. Awesome. Cool. Let's go back to my place, which I guess is a fucking castle, and let's have a celebration orgy, even though I'm 15 fucking years old, and a 50-year-old man really shouldn't be portraying me having sex with a bunch of adults." So he says, "Okay, let's go." So Riff Raff and Sunny and I guess the guards go, and Janet and the secretary woman also go. They all go up to Transylvania. And Steve turns around and everybody's gone. He goes, "Guys, can I come to your super cool sex party on another planet?" And they're all just gone. Steve slowly starts losing his mind. He's walking from the castle. He doesn't know what to do. He's in his hometown of Denton, but it's 15 years ago. There's no one there who would ever believe him. So he starts fucking full-on sprinting. He doesn't know what streets are. He doesn't see anything. He finally collapses on this lawn, and he goes, and he looks up, and it's his childhood house. And so he runs up, and he, like, bangs on the window, and he's like, "Mom, don't you remember me? It's Steve. It's your son. I'm a grown-up now because I'm from the future, and I got here in a magical shower. Please let me in." Shit, he pieces together these puzzle pieces. He says, "When I was young, 15 years ago, a guy collapsed on our lawn one night and screamed about showers, and then the police came and they arrested him. And then he hears police sirens and he's like, oh, fuck, that's me, isn't it?" So he gets arrested by the police. They're throwing him in the police car and he's like, "Watch out for the showers!" He's like screaming at the top of his lungs, like banging on the doors of the police car. And they like take him off. That's the end of Steve's story. Everybody else is like chilling out, having a dope party on Transylvania. And Sunny's in his like cool ruler's chair. And he goes, "Riff Raff, don't you want to join us? Like round 17 of our sex orgy is coming up." And Riff Raff goes, no thank you. I'm gonna go do my thing. So he heads out of this royal chamber and he walks down the hall and he gets to the graveyard where the movie began. And he looks in the coffin and he goes, "Hey, Magenta, I'm home." And then he fucking crawls in the coffin and shuts the lid on both of them. So the movie begins with Riff Raff crying over his sister that he killed and also was in incestuous love with, and it ends with him 15 years after she died crawling into her coffin with her dead corpse. It's probably just bones now, and I'm assuming getting his rocks off. And then the movie ends. Fuck! What? So, this rough draft script was written in the 80s, and a demo tape of 4 songs were written. They recorded 1 to 2 of them. That was the Moondrenchers of Transylvania and the Never Let Your Daughter Date an Alien, which is the one of Everybody in the Brunch. Some people at a Transylvania, like, Rocky Horror convention in the 90s said, "Oh yeah, we're recording backing demo." And then the film never got greenlit. It permanently went on hold. Richard O'Brien said, "Oh, I really liked the guy who approved the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but in the 15 years since he moved to Disney." And now I think that it'll just be on hold forever. Since then, there's been talks of other sequels. I think most recent was in, like, 2001-ish, when, he'd pitched something called Rocky Horror: The Second Coming. But at this point, like, everybody's old, you know? You couldn't get any of the original people back because they're old. Now the Rocky Horror Show is almost 50 years old from the original date of the first showing of the musical. It's come a long and hard and tumultuous way since then. I think that Richard O'Brien made a script at the height of the AIDS era, at a time when people were looking to new LGBT plus icons in pop culture and in media to sort of bring on this new era, and I think that he was just stuck in the past. He continues to be stuck in the past. Even though he funds a lot of pro-LGBT charities, he is still really trans-misogynistic, not great towards trans women, was really unapproving of Laverne Cox when she had played Frankenfurter in the 2016 Fox production. It's interesting to look at this as something like a product of its time. It's never something that I think would ever be greenlit today. I think that it's just interesting to look at this to see where in Richard O'Brien's mind things changed, what things should change, and how he would ever produce something like the Rocky Horror Picture Show without having any of the original cast in the sequel. Alright, yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I might do something else like this for something that I just have too much to say about to put it anywhere else.